No one at the Beverly Hills Galleria noticed the exact moment her breathing changed. They only noticed when she stopped fighting. The marble floors reflected everything: the chandeliers, the storefront lights, the illusion of safety. Isabella Monroe had always loved places like this: clean, predictable, controlled. She adjusted the sear scarf at her throat as she stepped out of Sephora, her phone buzzing with Slack notifications from the marketing team. The new spring campaign was trending well, engagement up 12%. Her boss had finally replied with a rare, "Great work." For a brief second she felt steady. Then she heard his voice. Bella. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. Her body recognized it before her mind did. She didn't turn around immediately. She counted. 1, 2, 3. Maybe she imagined it. "Don't ignore me." Now the footsteps were closer. When she turned, Derek Lawson looked almost the same as he had 2 years ago. Same expensive haircut he couldn't afford, same tailored jacket stretched over a body fueled by resentment and whiskey. Only his eyes had changed. They were empty. "What are you doing here?" she asked evenly, though her pulse had already begun its frantic climb. "I've been calling you. I blocked you. That's not how marriage works." The word scraped. "We're divorced." He smiled, slow, poisonous. "Paper doesn't change what you are." Around them, shoppers walked past with branded bags and curated lives. A teenage girl pretended not to stare. A security guard stood too far away. "I don't want a scene," Isabella said. "You already made one," he replied, "running around with men who have more money than sense." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I see things. People talk." He stepped closer. She smelled alcohol under mint gum. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," she whispered. "I think I survived you." That was when his hand moved. Fast, familiar. His fingers closed around her throat, not squeezing at first, just claiming. The word narrowed. Gasps rippled softly, like wind over water. No one stabbed him. "Don't," she managed. "You embarrass me," he said quietly, thumb pressing into her pulse point. "You left when I needed you. You were hurting me. You exaggerate." Her vision flickered at the edges. Across the polished corridor, a man stepped out of a Patek Philippe boutique. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He watched. Adrian Kang was known in certain circles for never reacting impulsively. His suits were custom. His voice rarely rose. His reputation traveled ahead of him in low tones. He took in the tableau in a single glance. The angle of Derek's grip, Isabella's paling lips, the crowd calculating liability instead of morality. Then he did something small. He removed the rings from his right hand, one by one. Platinum, onyx, gold. He handed them to the woman behind him without breaking eye contact. "Hold these," he said calmly. And then he walked forward. "Let her go." Derek glanced sideways. "This isn't your business." "It is now." Adrian's voice carried no volume, only certainty. Isabella felt the shift before she saw it. The subtle loosening of Derek's fingers as he measured the newcomer. "You her new boyfriend?" Derek sneered. Adrian tilted his head slightly. "No." The word landed heavier than yes. Derek tightened again, testing dominance. Adrian moved. It was swift, economical. He gripped Derek's wrist and twisted, not violently but with precise force. Enough to break control, enough to make a point. Derek cursed as his hand released. Isabella stumbled back, coughing, air tearing into her lungs like something foreign. Security finally approached. "Sir, you need to leave." Adrian never raised his voice. He assaulted her. Cameras will confirm it. Derek glared between them, pride warring with survival instinct. "This isn't over, Bella," he spat. "It is," she croaked. But he was already backing away, swallowed by the crowd that had rediscovered movement. Silence lingered like smoke. Adrian turned toward her. Up close, he didn't look like a savior. He looked controlled, composed, dangerous in a way that didn't require noise. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, though her throat burned. "I'm fine." "You're not." The bluntness startled her more than the assault. "I don't need protection," he finished. She hesitated. He studied the faint red marks forming on her skin. "No," she said finally, "I don't." A lie. They both knew it. He gestured toward a nearby bench. "Sit." She almost refused out of habit. Independence had become armor, but her legs trembled. As she sat, he retrieved his rings, sliding them back on with deliberate calm. "Why did you take them off?" she asked hoarsely. He met her gaze. "So I wouldn't leave marks." The answer settled between them, heavy and intimate. In the distance, sirens wailed faintly, too late to matter. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed carefully. "Isabella." A pause. "Adrian." They held each other's gaze longer than strangers should. Around them, the mall returned to its illusion of normalcy. But something irreversible had begun. By the time Isabella reached her apartment in West Hollywood, the fingerprints on her throat had deepened into a muted violet. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror longer than necessary. The lighting was soft, curated, the kind influencers paid for. It didn't hide the damage, it only made it look aesthetic. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She froze, then answered. Isabella Monroe? Her throat tightened instinctively. Yes? This is Detective Ramirez, Beverly Hills PD. We have security footage from the mall. We'd like to ask you a few questions regarding the incident. Incident? Such a polite word for oxygen being taken from your body. I don't want to press charges, she said automatically. A pause. Ma'am, the man has a prior complaint. Her pulse skipped. From me? No, from someone else. The room felt smaller. I'll call you back, she whispered and hung up. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the city through floor-to-ceiling glass. Los Angeles glittered below, a constellation of ambition and denial. Her phone buzzed again, this time a message. Unknown number, Adrian Kang. You should file the report. Her breath caught. How did he? Another message followed. You're safe tonight, but he won't stop unless someone makes him. She stared at the screen. She could ignore him, block him, pretend today had been a hallucination wrapped in marble and humiliation. Instead, she typed, Isabella, you don't know that. The reply came quickly. Yes, I do. Across the city, Adrian stood in his private office overlooking Wilshire Boulevard. The skyline reflected in the glass behind him, turning him into a silhouette divided by light. He set his phone down. Find him, he said calmly. Across the desk, Marcus Lee nodded once. Already did. Marcus had been with Adrian for 8 years, long enough to understand that quiet meant serious. He's been staying in a short-term rental in Koreatown, 2 months behind on payments, multiple bar tabs, a lot of online activity. Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. Online? Posts about her, vague, implying infidelity, gold-digging, that kind of thing. Of course. Adrian walked to the window. He didn't intervene in domestic disputes. He didn't mix business with emotion. He didn't repeat mistakes. Make sure he understands, Adrian said, voice level, that public harassment is a poor life choice. Marcus hesitated. How far? Adrian considered that. Not violent, not illegal, but unmistakable. Enough. The next morning, Derek woke up to silence. His phone had been wiped. Social media accounts locked. Bank app inaccessible. Outside his rental, a black SUV idled. 2 men stood beside it. Not smiling, not threatening, just present. One of them handed him an envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A restraining order form, unsigned. And beneath it, a photograph. Him, at the mall. Hand around her throat. High resolution. Time-stamped. Derek's stomach dropped. The taller man spoke softly. You're going to leave the city for a while. Or what? Derek snapped, though his voice lacked conviction. The man's eyes didn't change. Or you won't like the alternative. They didn't touch him. They didn't need to. Isabella was at work when she saw it. Derek's social media accounts had disappeared. The gossip threads had been deleted. Even the anonymous Reddit post speculating about her new rich lover was gone. She stared at her laptop screen. Her coworker, Lila, leaned over the cubicle wall. Hey, are you okay? I saw something yesterday on TikTok. It looked like... I'm fine, Isabella cut in smoothly. Always smooth. Lila studied her. Your neck. Burned myself with a curling iron. A lie offered with practiced grace. By noon, the office felt suffocating. Whisper networks moved faster than facts. Her boss, Amanda, called her in. There was... an incident? Amanda asked carefully. Yes. Is it going to follow you here? There it was. The unspoken calculation of corporate America. Is your trauma bad for brand alignment? No, Isabella said firmly. Amanda nodded. Good. We have investors flying in next week. I need stability. Stability. As if it were something you could order overnight. That evening, Isabella found herself outside a building she had only ever seen in business magazines. Glass, steel, minimalist perfection. Kang Holdings. She didn't remember deciding to come. The receptionist recognized her immediately. Miss Monroe, he's expecting you. Of course he was. The elevator ride felt like an ascent into something she wasn't prepared for. When the doors opened, Adrian stood near the window again, sleeves rolled precisely once. You shouldn't interfere in my life, she said before greeting him. His expression didn't change. He's gone. For how long? A while. She stepped closer. What did you do? Nothing illegal. That's not reassuring. A flicker, almost amusement, touched his mouth. He was escalating. You don't know that. He met her gaze steadily. I do. Silence stretched. She crossed her arms, defensive. I don't need a savior. I'm not offering to be one. Then what are you offering? Stability. The word echoed what her boss had said. She laughed softly, bitterly. At what cost? No cost. That's not how powerful men operate. He didn't argue. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to her. You don't have to be strong with me, he said quietly. The statement unsettled her more than any threat. You don't know me. I know what it looks like when someone learns to survive by minimizing their pain. Her fingers tightened around the glass. And you? She asked. What do you know about that? For the first time, something shifted behind his eyes. I was late once, he said simply. Late? To someone who asked for help. The air changed. What happened? She whispered. He looked back toward the city. She died. The word landed without drama. No embellishment, no detail, just fact. Isabella swallowed. I am not her. I know. Then why help me? A long pause. Because this time, he said, I was there. Their eyes locked. No promises, no declarations. Just 2 people standing in the quiet aftermath of violence, recognizing something familiar in each other's fractures. She set the glass down. I don't want a relationship, she said carefully. I didn't offer one. I don't want to owe you. You don't, and I won't be controlled. His jaw tightened subtly, not in anger, but in understanding. I don't control women, he said evenly. I remove obstacles. That sounds worse. A faint exhale, almost a laugh. You're safe, he repeated. That's all. Safe. The word felt foreign. She moved toward the elevator, then paused. Why did you really take off your rings yesterday? She asked without turning. His answer came after a beat. Because if I hadn't, he said quietly, I wouldn't have stopped. The elevator doors closed between them, and for the first time in 2 years, Isabella felt something unfamiliar settle into her bones. Not love, not desire, but the terrifying possibility of not being alone. It started on a Tuesday at 6:17 a.m. Isabella's phone vibrated against her nightstand, relentless. Slack notifications, Instagram tags, 3 missed calls from Lila, 2 from her mother. She didn't open her eyes immediately. She already knew. When she finally reached for the phone, the first thing she saw was her own face, paused mid-frame in a shaky vertical video from the mall. The clip cut just before Derek's hand closed around her throat. The caption read, Marketing exec stages public drama before being rescued by mysterious Korean billionaire. Below it, thousands of comments broomed like infection. She looks calm. If it was real, she'd be hysterical. Gold digger vibes. Why is he taking off his rings? Mafia much? Women like this ruin real victims. Her chest tightened. She scrolled. A second video surfaced. Derek's voice overlaid on a blurred selfie. I stayed silent for years, he said, tone wounded, intimate. But I can't watch her destroy another man's life. She's unstable. She manipulates situations. I was trying to talk to her. She overreacted. The comments were worse under that one. He sounds sincere. Men can be abused too. She probably pushed him. Isabella dropped the phone onto the bed as if it burned. The city outside her window glowed indifferent and golden. Los Angeles didn't pause for public humiliation. Her phone rang again. Amanda. She answered. Tell me it's not trending on LinkedIn, Isabella said before her boss could speak. A tight sigh came through the line. It is. Of course it is. Investors have seen it. Did they see the part where he strangled me? They saw what was uploaded. There it was again. The difference between truth and optics. We're a beauty brand, Isabella, Amanda continued. We promote empowerment, clean image, stability. You think I staged it? I think perception is reality. The sentence hit harder than the comments. I need you to consider taking a temporary leave, Amanda said gently. Until this dies down. And if it doesn't? A pause. We reassess. Translation: You're replaceable. Isabella ended the call without another word. She sat still for a long time, staring at the faint bruising in the mirror across the room. It had darkened overnight, proof that her body remembered what strangers debated. Her phone lit up again. Adrian. Come to the office. She typed back. I am not hiding behind you. A minute passed. This isn't hiding, he replied. It's strategy. By the time Isabella arrived at Kang Holdings, 2 black sedans were parked outside. The building's glass reflected a cluster of reporters gathering across the street. She stopped walking. Are they here because of me? She asked Marcus, who met her at the entrance. They're here because Mr. Kang's name is trending with the word Mafia, he said evenly. Her stomach dropped. Inside, Adrian stood before a large screen displaying social media analytics, graphs rising sharply. He didn't look angry. He looked calculating. You shouldn't be involved in this, she said as soon as the door closed. I already am. You didn't ask for this. Neither did you. She crossed her arms. They're saying I used you, that I orchestrated it. I've seen worse accusations. That's easy for you to say. His gaze sharpened slightly. No, it isn't. Silence fell between them, thick with unsaid things. On the screen, a new headline appeared from an online tabloid. Isabella Monroe linked to Kang Holdings. Coincidence or calculated climb? Below it, a photo of Adrian sliding his rings back on. They're dissecting that gesture, Marcus muttered. Conspiracy threads everywhere. Isabella swallowed. Why did you take them off in public? Because subtlety doesn't work on men like him. She looked at him carefully. And now? Now we control the narrative. She shook her head. I don't want to spin anything. I just want the truth. The truth, Adrian said quietly, rarely trends. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from her mother. Why are you involved with dangerous men? As if she'd chosen this. As if survival were a character flaw. She sank into one of the leather chairs, exhaustion seeping through her posture. I can't lose my job, she said softly. You won't. You can't promise that. I don't make promises. She almost smiled at the consistency. Outside, camera shutters clicked faintly. Your silence makes it worse, she said. People assume guilt when powerful men don't respond. His jaw flexed slightly. If I respond publicly, it legitimizes the accusation. And if you don't, it looks like you're above consequence. He studied her. You think I am? I think you're used to being untouchable. The words hung in the air. He stepped closer, not threatening, just present. I built what I have because I don't react emotionally, he said. That's the difference between control and chaos. And what am I? She asked quietly. He didn't hesitate. You're in the middle. That hurt more than the rumors. Her phone buzzed again, this time an email notification. Subject line. Administrative leave effective immediately. Her breath caught. She opened it slowly. Corporate language. Polite distancing. Temporary. Protecting brand integrity. She let out a soft, humorless laugh. There it is. Adrian read her expression before she spoke. Send it to Marcus, he said. No. His gaze sharpened. Isabella, I don't want you fixing this. I'm not fixing it. I'm mitigating damage. I need to handle something myself. The room grew very still. Outside, a reporter shouted Adrian's name. Inside, Isabella felt something fragile cracking. Not weakness, but illusion. You know what they hate most? She said suddenly. What? A woman who survives and doesn't apologize for it. Her eyes met his. I won't hide. A long pause. Then Adrian nodded once. Then, we don't hide. He turned to Marcus. Schedule a press conference. Marcus blinked. That will escalate. Yes. Isabella stared at him. You'd risk that? I don't like bullies, he said simply. The words echoed the mall. Her throat tightened, not from fear this time, but from something more dangerous. Trust. Outside, the crowd grew louder. Online, the comments multiplied. Somewhere in the city, Derek watched it all unfold from a borrowed phone, smiling at the chaos he believed he'd created. He thought he had forced her into a corner. He didn't understand that corners could become stages, and stages could become reckoning. Adrian's phone buzzed with a secure message. Derek has resurfaced online under a new alias. Adrian's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped. The war wasn't physical anymore. It was public. And reputation in America could be deadlier than violence. The press conference did not explode the way tabloids had predicted. It didn't implode either. Adrian stood behind the minimalist podium in a charcoal suit, calm as winter. Isabella stood beside him, not behind, not sheltered, her bruises faint beneath careful makeup, visible if he looked long enough. He didn't deny knowing her. He didn't romanticize it. I intervened because a woman was being assaulted, he said evenly into the microphones. Nothing more. Nothing more. The phrase traveled across headlines within hours. Some commentators called him calculated, others called him cold, a few called him honorable. Isabella noticed he never once used the word relationship, and somehow that made it harder to breathe. Afterward, when the cameras dispersed and the noise thinned into distant speculation, Adrian did something unexpected. He invited her to dinner. Not a restaurant, not somewhere visible, his home. You don't have to, he added, as if offering her an exit. She studied him carefully. Is this part of the strategy? No. The honesty unsettled her. She agreed. Adrian's house sat in the hills above the city, modern and glass-wrapped, the kind of architecture that looked like it had secrets embedded in its foundation. No family photos lined the walls, no clutter softened the corners. Everything was intentional. Isabella stepped inside and felt the quiet immediately, not empty but controlled, as if even sound required permission. Do you ever get lonely here? She asked before she could stop herself. He closed the door gently behind her. Loneliness implies absence. And this isn't? It's preference. She wasn't convinced. Dinner was simple, Grilled sea bass, roasted vegetables, a bottle of white wine he opened without ceremony. No staff lingered, no background music intruded. The city shimmered below them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. They ate facing the view, not each other. "You're very careful," she observed. "About what?" "Everything. We consider that. Carefulness prevents regret." Her fingers paused over her fork. "Does it?" A quiet beat. "No," he admitted. The admission felt like a door opening a fraction of an inch. She leaned back in her chair. "Tell me about her." He didn't ask who, he knew. The woman he had been late for, the one who died. He poured more wine before answering. Her name was Minji Park. The name hung in the air, fragile and precise. She worked for one of my development projects. Smart, ambitious, too trusting. His gaze drifted toward the horizon. Her husband was violent. She hid it well. Isabella's throat tightened. "She asked me for help once," Adrian continued. "I told her I would handle it discreetly. I had a meeting that afternoon. It ran long." He paused. "When I arrived at her apartment, the paramedics were already there." Silence swallowed the room. "She survived the assault," he said softly. "But not the shame, not the legal battle, not the public speculation." Isabella felt the weight of that last phrase. Public speculation. She took her own life 6 months later. The confession didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded unfinished. "You think you could have changed that?" Isabella asked gently. "I think," he replied, voice low, "that I underestimated how alone she felt." The city lights flickered below them, indifferent witnesses. "You didn't cause it," Isabella said. "No," he agreed, "but I didn't prevent it." There it was, the guilt he wore like another ring. She stood and walked toward the glass wall, wrapping her arms around herself. "You can't save people from their own pain," she murmured. He joined her, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her skin, but not touching. "Maybe not," he said, "but you can make sure they're not fighting it alone." The words settled between them. The air shifted. She was aware of him now in a different way. The controlled power in his posture, the restraint in his breathing. He didn't reach for her. He didn't need to. Desire built quietly, like heat beneath stone. "Are there rules?" she asked suddenly. "For what?" "For being in your world." His eyes darkened slightly. "There are always rules." "Such as?" "I don't mix business with intimacy." She turned toward him. "And am I business?" "No." "Intimacy?" A pause. "Not yet." Her pulse skipped at the restraint in his tone. "And if I don't want to be either?" His gaze held her steadily. "Then you walk away. Simple. Clean. No promises." It should have made her feel safe. Instead, it made her feel exposed. "Do you always wait for women to leave first?" she asked quietly. His jaw tightened slightly. "I don't chase." "That sounds lonely." "It's efficient." She laughed softly. "You can't manage feelings like investments." "No," he agreed, "but you can minimize risk." She stepped closer now, close enough to smell the faint trace of cedar and citrus on his skin. "And what's the risk with me?" His voice lowered almost imperceptibly. "That I stopped minimizing." The honesty was more intimate than a touch. Her breath caught. For a suspended second, the space between them thinned to nothing, but he didn't kiss her. He stepped back instead. "Stay," he said quietly. "There's a guest room." The rejection wasn't cruel. It was deliberate. She studied him carefully. "You're afraid," she said. "Of what?" "Of wanting something you can't control." His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. "Good night, Isabella." He left her standing by the glass, the city glowing beneath her like temptation. Later, alone in the guest room, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. She could still feel the phantom pressure of Derek's hand on her throat, but she could also feel something new, something steadier. Adrian hadn't touched her, hadn't promised her anything, hadn't claimed her, and somehow that restraint felt more dangerous than possession. Down the hall, Adrian stood in his darkened study, staring at a small framed photograph he rarely allowed himself to look at. Minji smiling beside a construction site, hopeful. He set the frame face down. In another part of the city, Derek watched the press conference replay on a cracked tablet screen, fury simmering beneath humiliation. He thought Adrian was protecting Isabella. He didn't realize that the most powerful protection wasn't control, it was patience. And patience, when it finally breaks, can burn everything. It happened quietly, not in a rush of hunger, not in the aftermath of danger. It happened on an ordinary Thursday evening when the city felt almost gentle. Isabella had returned to work in a limited capacity. Officially, she was consulting remotely. Unofficially, she was being observed. By management, by colleagues, by the internet. Every post she made was dissected, every public appearance measured. She hated how careful she'd become. She hated that Derek's shadow still dictated her posture. That night, she found herself back at Adrian's house. She told herself it was convenience. The hills were quieter. The world felt further away there. They were in his kitchen, sleeves rolled, chopping vegetables side by side like something dangerously domestic. "You don't have to keep coming here," he said without looking at her. "You don't have to keep letting me." A faint exhale, almost a laugh. The air between them had changed over the past weeks. The restraint that once felt sharp had softened into awareness. They had begun texting late at night. Not about strategy, not about Derek, about nothing, about insomnia, about the way Los Angeles smelled after rare rain, about childhood memories neither of them shared easily with others. It was intimacy without touch, and it was unraveling them. "Are you staying tonight?" he asked, still focused on the knife in his hand. "Yes." The words settled differently this time. Dinner was quieter than usual, not tense, just charged. Afterward, they stood again before the glass wall overlooking the city. It had become their unspoken ritual. "You're thinking," he observed. "I'm always thinking. About?" She hesitated. "Whether I'm repeating a pattern." That made him look at her. "With Derek? With needing someone stronger than me?" The honesty hung raw between them. "I don't need you to be stronger," Adrian said evenly. "Don't you?" "No." She turned to face him fully. "You made him disappear." "I removed the threat. You make things go away. I make obstacles manageable." She studied him carefully. "And what am I?" His voice lowered slightly. "Not an obstacle." "Then what?" He didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched, not empty, but deliberate. "You're someone who shouldn't have had to survive what you did," he said finally. "And you're still standing." The words landed deeper than praise. She stepped closer. "I don't want to replace one protector with another," she whispered. His jaw tightened subtly. "I'm not him." "I know. Then don't confuse protection with control." "And what is this?" she asked softly, gesturing between them. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his composed expression. "This," he said slowly, "is something I don't calculate well." Her pulse quickened. He reached up, hesitated, then let his fingers brush lightly against the fading mark on her neck. The touch was gentle, almost reverent. She inhaled sharply. "You don't flinch anymore," he murmured. "Not with you." The admission shifted everything. He stepped closer, his hand sliding from her neck to her jaw, tilting her face upward just enough. "If we do this," he said quietly, "it changes things." It already has. A long breath passed between them, then he kissed her. Not urgently, not desperately. Slow, measured, as if he were learning the shape of something fragile. She felt it in her knees first, that dangerous surrender, but it wasn't submission, it was choice. Her hands moved to his chest, steadying herself against the controlled strength beneath his shirt. He pulled back slightly, searching her face. "Tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she kissed him again, this time deeper, warmer, the restraint thinning. They moved through the house without speaking, not in haste, not in chaos, but in quiet certainty. When he finally pulled her into his bedroom, there was no theatrical urgency, just breath and warmth and the steady unspooling of guarded edges. He undressed her slowly, as if asking permission with every touch. She didn't feel claimed, she felt seen. When they finally lay together, skin to skin, the city lights painting shadows across their bodies, Isabella felt something unfamiliar rising beneath the desire. Fear. Not of him, of how much she wanted this. Afterward, they lay in silence. His arm rested around her, not possessive, simply present. "You're quiet," he said softly. "I'm thinking." Dangerous habit. She traced a faint scar along his shoulder. "What are you afraid of?" He didn't answer immediately. "Losing control," he said at last. "You didn't seem out of control. Not physically." She propped herself on one elbow. "Emotionally, then?" His eyes met hers in the dim light. "I know how to handle threats," he said evenly. "Legal attacks, financial warfare, reputation damage. And this? This is different." "How?" "You can't outmaneuver feelings." She studied him, the man who intimidated boardrooms and silenced rivals with a look. "You're more afraid of loving someone than of being shot at, aren't you?" A faint, humorless smile touched his mouth. "Yes." The honesty stunned her. She rested her head back against his chest. "I don't want to disappear into you," she whispered. "You won't. I need to know I'm choosing you, not hiding behind you." He tightened his arm slightly, not to restrain, but to anchor. "Then choose," he said quietly. "Every day. No promises. No forever. Just presence." Downstairs, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, a secure notification flashing across the screen. Derek Lawson spotted back in Los Angeles County. Upstairs, Isabella slept against Adrian's heartbeat for the first time, and Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He had crossed a line he'd sworn never to approach again. Not because of danger, but because vulnerability, once invited in, never leaves quietly. Outside, the city glittered as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The first sign wasn't dramatic. It was an email, sent at 3:12 a.m. Subject line, "We should talk." Adrian was already awake when it arrived. He rarely slept deeply anymore. He read it once, then again. Attached were documents, internal transfer summaries, partial investment structures, redacted names that should have remained inaccessible. Not illegal, not clean enough to survive public scrutiny without context. And beneath the files, a message. "You took something from me. I'll take something from you." Adrian's expression didn't shift, but something in his posture did. Marcus stood across the desk 10 minutes later, reading the same screen. "How did he get this?" Marcus asked quietly. "He didn't," Adrian replied. "Someone gave it to him." Inside jobs were always more dangerous than enemies. "And Isabella?" Marcus asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. "He's escalating." Isabella didn't know about the email. She was at a downtown studio that afternoon, overseeing a campaign reshoot. The brand needed a fresh angle, something about reclaiming narrative. The irony wasn't lost on her. She checked her phone between takes. No messages from Adrian. Strange. He always checked in, not possessive, just consistent. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, answered. Silence. Then breathing. Her stomach dropped. Derek. A soft chuckle. "You always did know me. What do you want?" "To talk. We have nothing left to say. You have something that belongs to me. I'm not your property. You never were," he replied smoothly. "But you are leverage." Her pulse spiked. Leverage for what? For balance. The line went dead. She stood frozen for a long moment. Then another text arrived. An address. "Koreatown. Come alone. Or I send everything to every journalist in your boyfriend's contact list." Her throat tightened. Boyfriend. She stared at the address again. If she told Adrian, he would handle it. If he handled it, Derek would escalate. If Derek escalated, Adrian's empire would be dragged into public investigation, and she would once again be the catalyst for destruction. The old guilt resurfaced fast and familiar. "You ruin everything you touch." She typed a message to Adrian, deleted it, typed again, deleted it. Then she grabbed her coat. The building was half renovated, concrete dust in the air, flickering hallway lights. Isabella's heels echoed against unfinished flooring as she climbed the stairs. Her heart pounded too loud. "Derek?" she called, hating how her voice wavered. A door creaked open at the end of the hall. He stepped out slowly. He looked thinner, more frantic, eyes rimmed red from sleepless obsession. "You came," he said softly. "You said you'd destroy him. I said I'd expose him. What do you want?" He held up his phone. "I have enough here to ruin him," he said. "Investors don't like gray areas. Media loves foreign crime angles." Her stomach twisted. "This isn't about me anymore," she whispered. "It was always about you. You're spiraling. I'm surviving." His voice cracked at the edges. "You left me with nothing. I left you with consequences." The air snapped between them. "You think he's better than me?" Derek asked suddenly. "This isn't a competition. It is to me." He stepped closer. She stepped back. "You traded up," he continued bitterly. "From a man who struggled to a man who controls everything." "I didn't trade. You always needed someone stronger." The words hit too close. Before she could respond, he moved. Faster than she expected. He grabbed her arm, not her throat this time, but tight enough to bruise. "You're not leaving until we fix this," he said through clenched teeth. "Let me go. You owe me." She tried to pull free. He shoved her into the unfinished apartment behind him and slammed the door. The sound echoed down the empty hall. Adrian knew she was gone before Marcus finished speaking. "She left the studio 20 minutes ago," Marcus said. "Didn't take security." Adrian's voice was ice. "Track her phone." "She turned off location services." A beat of silence. "She wouldn't run," Marcus added. "No," Adrian said softly. "She wouldn't." His phone vibrated again. A new message. A photo. Isabella inside a dim, concrete room. Alive, angry, afraid. "Ticking clock," the message read. For the first time in years, Adrian felt something close to fury breach his control. Not loud, not explosive. Cold. "Find the address," he said. Already in motion, Marcus nodded. "You're not going alone," Marcus warned. Adrian slipped his wings off and set them carefully on the desk. "I'm not going to kill him." But the way he said it made Marcus uncertain. Inside the apartment, Isabella paced. "You think this ends well?" she demanded. "It ends fairly," Derek insisted. "You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly," he snapped. "He's not untouchable. This has nothing to do with him." "It has everything to do with him," Derek shouted. "He stepped into something that was mine. I was never yours." The silence after that was sharp. For a second, something almost human flickered across Derek's face. Then it hardened. "You always make me the villain. You did that yourself." A crash echoed from downstairs. Derek stiffened. Footsteps. Measured. Controlled. Isabella's breath caught. The door handle rattled once, then stopped. A voice came from the other side. Open the door. Adrian. Not raised, not frantic. Worse. Derek's hands trembled slightly. You shouldn't have come, Derek muttered. You threatened something that belongs to me, Adrian replied evenly. Isabella's chest tightened at the phrasing. Derek smirked faintly. See? Same as me. Open the door, Adrian repeated. No. The next moment happened fast. The door splintered inward with controlled force, not chaos, precision. Adrian stepped inside, calm as ever, sleeves rolled, eyes unreadable. He looked first at Isabella, not Derek. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head, though her arm throbbed. Only then did Adrian turn his attention to Derek. This ends now, Adrian said quietly. Derek laughed shakily. You think you scare me? No, Adrian replied. I think you misunderstand scale. The temperature in the room dropped. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Marcus had made sure of that. Derek's bravado faltered. You ruin everything, he spat at Isabella one last time. No, she said steadily. I leave what tries to ruin me. Sirens grew louder. Adrian stepped closer to her, not touching yet. When officers burst in, Derek didn't fight. He looked small, pathetic. As they cuffed him, he stared at Adrian. This isn't over. Adrian didn't respond. He simply slid his rings back on, one by one. And this time, Isabella understood. The rings weren't about violence. They were about restraint. Outside, flashing lights painted the unfinished building in red and blue. Inside, Isabella's hands trembled as the adrenaline drained from her body. Adrian finally reached for her, not to claim, not to control, just to steady. But she pulled slightly away, not in rejection, in realization. You can't keep stepping in front of every threat, she whispered. His gaze searched hers. I don't want to, she continued. I need to know I can stand there too. The past and present had collided, and the real battle wasn't Derek. It was who she would become after him. Adrian saw it in her eyes, the shift. The next choice wouldn't be his. It would be hers. The police station smelled like stale coffee and fluorescent fatigue. Isabella sat alone on a metal chair in the hallway outside the holding area, arms folded tightly across her body. The adrenaline from the confrontation had faded, leaving behind a hollow exhaustion that seemed to echo in her bones. Across the room, Adrian stood near a window speaking quietly with Marcus. He looked the same as always, controlled, composed, untouchable. But Isabella could feel the tension radiating from him even from across the hallway. Marcus leaned closer, voice low. The documents Derek had. We traced where he got them. Adrian's gaze remained fixed on the dark city outside. An analyst from the secondary investment division, Marcus continued. He sold partial files to Derek for cash. Handled? Adrian asked. Marcus nodded, quietly. The word carried weight. Adrian didn't react. But Marcus knew the difference between calm and restraint. You're not thinking clearly, Marcus said carefully. Adrian turned slightly. I'm thinking very clearly. What Derek did tonight won't end his life. A few charges, maybe a few years. Yes, and that's not enough for you. Adrian's silence answered. Marcus exhaled slowly. You've built everything on control. Don't destroy it over a man like him. Adrian's voice was low. He put his hands on her. Marcus studied him for a moment. That's exactly why you shouldn't do anything. Across the hallway, Isabella watched them. She didn't hear the words, but she understood the posture, the quiet calculation, the dangerous stillness. It reminded her of the night in the mall when Adrian had removed his rings, a signal, a boundary between control and violence. Her stomach tightened. She stood and walked toward him. Both men turned as she approached. Can I speak with him? She asked. Marcus frowned. Isabella, that's not... With Derek, she clarified. Silence fell immediately. No, Adrian said. The answer came too quickly. She met his eyes. I need to. There's nothing to gain from it. There is for me. His expression hardened slightly. He kidnapped you. Yes. He threatened you? Yes. And you want to talk to him? She didn't flinch. I want to end it. You already did. No, she said quietly. You did. The words landed harder than accusation. Adrian studied her face carefully. This isn't your burden anymore, he said. It was always mine. A long silence passed between them. Finally, Marcus spoke. Legally, she can request it. Adrian's jaw tightened. You don't have to watch, Isabella added gently, but he shook his head once. I'm not leaving you alone with him. The holding room was small. A steel table, 2 plastic chairs, a mirror that was obviously a window. Derek sat on the other side, wrists cuffed loosely in front of him. He looked smaller than she remembered, not just physically, diminished. When she entered, he leaned back with a crooked smile. You came to see me, he said. I came to finish something. He glanced at Adrian standing against the far wall. Your bodyguard looks tense. He's not my bodyguard. Sure. Isabella sat down across from him. For a moment, neither spoke. You always did hate losing, she said finally. I didn't lose, Derek replied. You ran. I escaped. You upgraded. The familiar bitterness surfaced again, but this time it didn't sting. You think this was about money? She said calmly. Or power? Or another man? What else could it be? Survival. Derek's smile faded slightly. You always exaggerated the past. No, she said softly. I minimized it. The words hung heavy in the sterile room. You hit me, she continued. You controlled where I went, who I spoke to. You turned love into something that felt like oxygen being taken away. Derek's eyes flickered. That's not how I remember it. Abusers rarely do. The mirror reflected Adrian's still figure behind her, silent, watching. I didn't come here for revenge, Isabella said. Or closure. Then why? So you understand something. She leaned forward slightly. You don't own my fear anymore. Derek's jaw clenched. You'll always carry what happened. Yes, she said simply, but it doesn't belong to you. The clarity in her voice unsettled him more than anger would have. You ruined your own life tonight, she added quietly. You think prison scares me? No, she replied. Irrelevance will. The silence stretched. For the first time since she'd known him, Derek looked uncertain. She stood. This is the last time you'll see me. You say that now? No, she said steadily. I mean it now. She turned toward the door. Behind her, Derek laughed weakly. You think that rich guy loves you? She paused, but didn't turn. That's not the point, she said. Then she left the room. In the hallway, Adrian was waiting. She saw the question in his eyes immediately. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Yes. What did he say? Nothing that matters. He studied her face carefully. You're different, he observed. I am. What changed? She hesitated. Before tonight, she said slowly, every man in my life was either hurting me or protecting me. And now, she met his gaze. Now I know I can stand there myself. The statement carried no accusation, but Adrian felt its weight. Derek will face charges, he said. I know. There are still ways I could make sure he never... No. The word was gentle, but firm. He held her gaze. You want me to let it go? Yes. You understand what he did. I do. And you still want restraint. She stepped closer. Yes. For several seconds, neither moved. Finally, Adrian reached up and slowly removed the rings from his fingers again. He turned them in his palm thoughtfully, then placed them back on, one by one. A choice. Not to escalate, not to retaliate. Marcus watched from down the hallway, relief flickering across his face. Adrian looked back at Isabella. You changed the outcome tonight, he said. No, she replied softly. I changed myself. Outside, dawn was beginning to rise over Los Angeles. For the first time in years, the past no longer felt like a cage, and Adrian realized something he had never allowed himself to believe. Strength didn't always look like protection. Sometimes it looked like letting someone walk beside you. Derek Lawson was denied bail. The news broke on a quiet Monday morning, buried between political scandal and celebrity divorce. The charges were clean and unambiguous this time. Kidnapping, assault, extortion, harassment. There was no viral sympathy video, no wounded monologue, just a booking photo. Isabella stared at it on her laptop screen, her coffee growing cold beside her. She didn't feel triumph. She didn't feel relief. She felt distance, as if the man in the photograph belonged to a different lifetime. Her phone buzzed. A message from her publicist, a new addition to her life. The morning show confirmed. Thursday, 9 a.m. Live segment. They want your story in your words. Her story. For months it had belonged to comment sections and anonymous threads, to corporate statements and filtered narratives. Now it would belong to her. The studio lights were warmer than she expected. Across from her sat the host, poised and sympathetic but alert, trained to sense both vulnerability and ratings. You were publicly assaulted, the host began gently, and then criticized for it. How do you respond to people who questioned your truth? Isabella didn't rush her answer. I don't respond to them, she said calmly. I respond to women who saw that video and recognized themselves. A quiet shift rippled through the crew. You didn't press charges initially, the host continued. No, because survival teaches you to minimize, to make it smaller than it is. And now? Now I understand that silence protects the wrong person. She didn't mention Adrian. Not once. When the host finally asked about him, the mysterious businessman, Isabella smiled slightly. He intervened when no one else did, she said. But staying safe after that was my decision. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't scandalous. It was deliberate. And it changed the narrative. Within hours, social media shifted tone. She's stronger than I thought. I misjudged her. This is what accountability looks like. Not universal support, but enough. Her company reinstated her publicly 2 days later, framing her as a voice for resilience. Investors applauded the authentic brand alignment. Corporate America loved redemption arcs. Isabella accepted the irony. That evening, she drove up to the hills again. But this time, it didn't feel like refuge. It felt like arrival. Adrian was standing outside when she pulled up, jacket off, sleeves rolled as usual. The sunset cut sharp lines across his face. "You watched?" she asked as she approached. "Yes. And? You didn't need me." There was no accusation in his voice, just fact. She stepped closer. "I never did," she said gently. "I just didn't know that." He studied her for a long moment. "You were extraordinary," he said quietly. She laughed softly. "I was honest. That's rarer." They walked inside together. No tension, no urgency. Just quiet. In the living room, the city stretched below them again, glittering and indifferent. "Derek will likely take a plea deal," Adrian said. "Less time, mandatory counseling." "I know. You okay with that?" She considered the question carefully. "I'm okay with not carrying him anymore." The words settled deep. Adrian reached into his pocket slowly. Isabella noticed the movement immediately. He removed his rings. All of them. Platinum, onyx, gold. He held them in his palm, not as weapons, but as history. "You asked me once why I take these off," he said. She nodded. "When I fight, I remove them so I don't leave marks." She waited. "And when I care," he continued quietly, "I remove them because I don't want to hide behind them." He stepped closer, not imposing, offering. "I don't want to rescue you," he said, "and I don't want to own you." Her pulse quickened. "I want to stand next to you," he finished, without strategy, without obligation. The vulnerability in his voice was sharper than any threat he had ever made. "You're not asking me to move in," she said carefully. "No. Or give up my career. No. Or disappear into your world. Never." She searched his face for calculation. Found none. "What are you asking?" she whispered. He exhaled slowly. "Partnership." The word was simple, but it held weight. Equal footing, shared risk, chosen presence. Not rescue, not control. She stepped forward until there was no distance left between them. "For the record," she said softly, "I'm not choosing you because you're powerful. I know. I'm choosing you because you don't need me to be weak." His hand lifted, hesitant for just a second, before settling against her waist. "I don't," he said, "and I won't ever belong to you." His eyes met hers steadily. "I don't want you to." The air shifted, not with urgency, but with certainty. She reached for his hand and slowly slid one of the rings back onto his finger. "Keep them on," she murmured. He studied her. "Why?" "Because you're not fighting anymore." A faint smile touched his mouth. "No," he agreed, "I'm not." He pulled her closer then, not to shield, not to claim, but to meet her. When he kissed her, it wasn't restraint this time. It wasn't fear, it wasn't guilt. It was choice. Outside, the city shimmered as always, hungry for scandal, ready for the next spectacle. But inside that glass-walled house, something had shifted into something steadier. Love, not as salvation, not as dominance, not as death, but as two people standing upright, unowned, unrescued, unafraid. And for the first time, Isabella didn't feel like she had survived something. She felt like she had built something. A different kind of power. The kind that doesn't silence. The kind that doesn't choke. The kind that chooses every day.